energy and infrastructure integration in the Free Seas security system. I am pleased to be a moderator of this panel. I invite Professor David Reichard and Professor Pablo de la Fuente. Thank you. Walter. First question, first topic. I want to talk with my prelegents, my colleagues. Did the Free Seas project should be an economic project? What do you think about Free Seas project, Pablo, please?
Sorry again.
What do you think about Free Seas project? Trimarium, Free Seas.
Yes. Sorry, because I come from the Latin world. For me, it's more close. Sorry, for me, it's closest Trimarium, no? Tres mares. Well, sorry. I think in the point of view of energy, no? Because I lose closer, sorry. Energy, because energy. I think is, well, in the forum of Carpats, I listen with attention all the speakers from Hungary, no, and Hungary. So sorry, I don't know. Now it's okay. Well, from Hungarians who talk about his model and be the referent of the economy of China. Hungary nowadays has very good things, but I think that one of the problems of the economy of Hungary is for being a key trade state in Europe has not any exit to open waters. You know, it's something easy in geopolitics. And I think that Trimarium is a very nice project for all these states of Central Europe. But what is the problem? What is the problem? The main problem nowadays from the 1973 was the consequences of the war in Yom Kippur between Israel and Syria and Egypt, and that provoked the growth of the prices of the barrel. Something that complicated geopolitics is the dependence of that. I think the future, in the point of view of energy for all these states in Trimarium, is the nuclear energy. The nuclear energy is a cheap energy, and a very competitive economy need a key. A lot of elements, but one is key. Cheap energy is the key of all. What's the matter? Well, what's the matter that in the 70s was founded Greenpeace with the money of the Standard Oil, led by the Rockefeller family, and led by David McTaggart. David McTaggart nowadays is like a saint of the ecologist ideologies, of the green ideology. But I report you that before set the Greenpeace business was a gangster in prison and was sent to prison with several frauds, no? What was the key? If Europe developed the nuclear energies, is practically gratis energy and cheap energy for all the states. And the most important, all the green ideologies who stop the expansion of the nuclear energy has a problem. There are not more research in this field for attacking several problems. That is true. The nuclear energy provokes. That's true. But nowadays, for example, the technology of the reactor changed radically. It's not necessary set the power plant in a river in order to refrigerate the reactor. There are now another technical solution. And I think in all these countries that has not petrol, for me, the future of Central Europe, the future of Trimarium is in a point of view of energy and don't depend on Russia or other powers, is the nuclear energy and the constant research. Because if you invest in research every time, this energy is more efficient and is more competitive than all alternative energies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David, what do you think about the future of Trimarium, future political future, safety future of Trimarium project?
Great, thank you for the question. Yes, well, you know, the 3 Cs initiative has fallen on hard times. Yeah, if we're going to be honest, this last few years has not seen a great growth in the structural development of the 3 Cs initiative. However, ironically, it has experienced a resurgence. It has a rebound, and the rebound, ironically, has come through the crisis with Russia and Ukraine, and the immediacy of that crisis, and the danger of that crisis right on the border of many of the 3 Cs countries. So, from a kind of a backhanded way, this has actually motivated 3 Cs, I think, to get more involved in energy security and in security in general. And I think, if I'm correct, the last meeting, the big meeting, was in Vilnius in April of this year, 2024, where they actually talked about all of these threats to the 3 Cs countries: the physical security threat, the cyber security threat, and the energy security threat. So that is, in a way, a positive move, you can say, for those who support the 3 Cs initiative, which I do. I think it's always good to have a cooperative effort like that. So, and so going forward, the question is, where will 3 Cs go from this point? What about the next summit meeting? Will there be more progress made on security and energy? And I believe there will, simply because of the ongoing threat on the borders of many of those states with the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And, one of the controversies, however, will this going forward of the 3 Cs security initiative, will that conflict with NATO? Will that conflict with the European Union's security apparatus, the so-called common security and defense policy of the European Union? And I would say it doesn't have to. I would say it could very well complement the NATO and the European Union's security efforts. For example, probably the history of this, that there was a lot of debate, especially starting in the 1990s, really the hot debate about whether European countries should go more with NATO or go with this common foreign and security policy, the common security and defense policy component of that. And so you had this kind of division between the so-called Atlanticist countries that really supported more NATO and the United States involved in European security. And then you had the so-called Europeanist countries that really wanted, to have more of a European-centered security apparatus outside of NATO. And so you still have this debate. However, I believe that this debate will diminish over time. And why? Well, a few things have happened. If you remember, in the 1990s, there was a meeting in Petersburg. That's Petersburg, Germany, a little town in Germany near Bonn. And the European Union and NATO, they came up with the so-called Petersburg tasks, which means part of which was that the European Union, as a security and defense organization, would only get involved in crisis situations if NATO decided not to get involved. Yeah, that Petersburg Agreement. And that led eventually to, I think it was the 2002 Berlin Plus Agreement that kind of made that more official, that NATO will have the first choice to get involved in a crisis situation or not. And if NATO decides not to get involved, then it will fall to the European Union common security and defense policy. And that seemed to be a very nice complementary way to go. So we're talking about a 3 C's development of a security initiative or security apparatus in the future. You could see it in a similar way as complementing both NATO and the European security and defense policy. So I don't see it as a threat to what the European Union or NATO is doing. In fact, if you think about it, in the context of the European Union, NATO, and the 3 C's countries, 23, I think is it 23 of the European Union member states are members of NATO. So sometimes we talk about, oh, here's NATO and here's the EU. But really, the majority, it's the same. It's the same. You have 23 full member states of the EU that are full members of NATO. So I see this as a complementary, not a competitive situation.
Thank you very much. Defense policy is very important, and I have a question to the Professor de la Fuente.
Yes, nowadays we have a serious threat, but when I follow in the net the statement of the Polish leaders, because I'm not Polish, but I am married against a Polish woman, and my family lives here. And now my interest is the defense of this country. And I am worried about the situation because when I served in the army during the period of the Cold War, all the hypothesis of answer of the NATO was, well, stop the 30 divisions deployed by the Soviet forces in Eastern Germany at the moment that we cannot stop them use the cruise missiles, the tactical nuclear weapons. Nowadays, I don't listen anyone to say that. And for me, another important aspect, I think that the propaganda is making, in order to increase, that is necessary to increase the budget for military, is a war, a scenario of war in 4 or 5 years ago, in 4 or 5 years later, sorry. And for me, this is something that I don't like. I think that I think in the history of Poland, in the history of this country, and I watch that the history of Poland is also, Poland is left in a critical situation by the Allies. I remember the situation in 1939 when the French promised to the Polish authorities, don't worry, if the Germans invade, in less than 2 weeks, the French army will invade Poland. And the result was the Phony War. And also, I remember the promise of the cabinet of Chamberlain, who promised set apart of the Royal Air Force deployed in Poland for defending the Polish skies. Was absolutely fake. I don't know that. I'm not really against the NATO, but when you have a problem, the first responsible for the problem is you. There are not the Germans, there are not the Americans, there are not the French, there are not the British, are the Polish. Why I think that following the policy of the nuclearization of Poland, but it's very expensive, but Trimarium can be the platform for a strategic defense of Europe. If France, in the NATO, there are not a monopoly of the nuclear weapons. Great Britain has nuclear weapons, and the same France. One of the things I don't want in 5 years that my country or your country will a scenario of a conventional war. And the only solution is, well, we can be by national interest, friends of the Americans or the British or the French. But start by us. Trimarium is a good opportunity in order to mancomunate a strategic response force of nuclear missiles. A reduced force, but nowadays, I speak about the Spanish League. Poland, geopolitically, nowadays is a team of the second division. At the moment that Poland, with the partners, set his own nuclear force like France or the British, Poland will play in another league. Will play in another league combined with all these partners. Think Trimarium, Trimarium, thank you very much, 3 Cs. Very important, for example, for me, in a point of view of geopolitics, is the association of Greece to Trimarium. Because Greece is the poor brother of the NATO nowadays. Because every time that the Greeks has a problem with Turkey, Turkey is the why the president of the United States only gained the play of Turkey? Because he's Muslim? Not exactly. Because nowadays Turkey has the second army after the United States in Europe. I think, for example, this military coalition inside or outside NATO is not a problem. But this combination to create a strategic force of response for the Greeks is something interesting because they had another voice in order to negotiate with Turkey. And another thing, I'm not very friend about the superstructure. I'm creator now officials and now structure. This is a problem because create a common force of a strategic response in Trimarium is a problem because you must create is a contradiction. No? But also, for example, in Europe, the most part of the AWACS, these flying radars that is used for air defense, are or Americans or are property not of any country, it's property of the NATO. Every country can have his conventional force and do a commonwealth of nuclear response. Because that's true that a military nuclear project is something very expensive. Poland, perhaps the economy of Poland is not able nowadays of that. But a mancomunation of Hungary, I think, is by the safety and also, as I said, go to the upper division. In this moment, the policy of Poland must be, for example, why Poland sent troops to Afghanistan or why Poland sent troops to Iraq in order to pay the coverage of the United States. At the moment that Poland has inside the coalition, inside the NATO perhaps, but some strategic independence perhaps is not so necessary. Send the young Polish soldiers to die in wars that are not important for the citizens of this country. The Afghans of the Iraqians, they do anything against Poland. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Do you think about new nuclear sharing program?
Yes. But yes. For example, today is not Professor Giziski with us, but I recommend his book. This idea, well, I understand, perhaps you can correct me, but Visegrad is something like Mała Polska, Wielka Polska. Visegrad is, yes, jeden Marium, no? Tylko, is one Marium, one C, but is is the short proposal. But when he said start programs for the military cooperation, instead to buy weapons to the other countries and invest a lot of money without any benefit for the Polish or the Czech industry, develop our systems of weapons, of air defense, of tanks, of artillery, because this country can develop that. At the moment, yes, I think yes, but I think in this contradiction, no, how coordinate this multinational force of Trimarium only in the order of a strategy is something. There are a contradiction in this point, but for me, is my point of view. Sorry.
Okay, David, the point of view from USA. Did USA see interest to develop the Trimarium in the aspect of safety or energetic cooperation?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, well, the Vilnius conference in last April, had a number of participant observers, and a number of American policymakers were there from the various departments of U.S. ministries, and they fully supported these initiatives of the three C's countries. And their only concern was that this not break away from the structures of NATO and the structures of the EU, as we already talked about, that exist, that they work in a complementary way with them. But yeah, there was full support. And just in the context of this American link with Europe and with the three C's, there's a lot of speculation about the election coming up, the presidential election, and what could be the difference with a Trump presidency versus presidency of Joe Biden now. Yeah. And of course, Biden is more of a traditional post-war international liberal who supports the liberal architecture of the world, the United Nations system, and so forth. And Trump is more of a traditional American isolationist, because as you know from the history, we have this debate in America. Should America be an internationalist player, with the Woodrow Wilson, Franklin Roosevelt type of player, or should America be focused more on itself internally? And traditionally, in the 20th century, the Democratic Party was leading this globalist agenda, and the Republicans were more the isolationist party for many years. And Trump is going back to this 1920s, kind of 1930s American isolationist policy. Now, it's true, when Trump says make America great or America number one, he's not talking globally. He's talking more about manufacturing, about bringing back jobs to America. For example, textile jobs, which has long gone out of the country, various steel jobs working in the steel industry, and trying to bring those back. I'm not an economist, but many economists say that's fantasy. Those jobs are long gone, and it'll never return for American manufacturing dynamism again. But okay, so that's another debate. So what about in terms of security with Trump? Now, Trump has threatened over the years to pull out of NATO. You've heard that. And he has also come to Europe, and he's demanded that the European member states of NATO pay their 2%, at least 2% of their budget for defense and security, which is the NATO obligation. But if you're asking my personal opinion about a Trump presidency, and I think there is a very good chance he will win in November, very good chance, that I think Trump's, how to say it, we say kind of metaphorically, his bark is much worse than his bite. Yeah. So, for example, this idea of Trump's close relationship with Vladimir Putin, it was never really that close. In fact, Trump was the one that during his 4 years that started the big sanctions on Russia because of the situation with Ukraine already at that time before the big invasion. Yeah. So I believe that Trump, if he does become president, once he becomes president, the factors of reality will move in, and that Trump will be he will support a strong U.S. presence in NATO. He will continue to motivate the other NATO members to share the responsibility for that. But there's no chance he's going to pull out. And I believe he would support things like 3 Seas Initiative. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a really good point. And as Europe, showing that Europe can take responsibility for its own territory. Yeah. So that's really what Trump is all about. So, but these fears that America will leave NATO under Trump and this and that, or that Trump will somehow pressure Ukraine to give up all of this territory for a compromise. I think it's campaign blah blah blah. It's campaign blah 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 against the Biden globalist perspective, the Biden-Harris globalist perspective. So that's what I would say.
Well, only one point. Donald Trump perhaps will win the election as 4 years ago, because he also won the election. Another business is to be president, but it's clear, I think, no, this point. And for be conscious of the problem that we have nowadays, why all the supreme commanders of the NATO forces are Americans? I will explain you clearly. If we take the 10 most powerful countries in the world, Russia, Brazil, Germany, all the list of the 10 first, we multiply 2 times. This is the budget of defense of the United States. Nowadays, United States is a giant, and Poland and Europe is a war militant. And this is the reality of the fact. I don't have anything against the Americans. They have their interest, but the Poles has their interest. And for example, when I talked 10 years ago in a conference in YouTube, was very polemic, but I asked for the conscription in Poland. And I talked to my students, is the Polish state in the United States, if you want to study in the university, you pay a lot of money. Here in Poland, it's free. It's a privilege. In Spain, doesn't exist also. If your country is paying you for your high quality formation, you must give back this service to your country. I think the first priority in this scenario of future war that I don't wish is Poland must reestablish the conscription. Now, this is the first mission. And the second one, Poland nowadays, I think that budget of defense is more than the 2% of the GNP. The question, very important, is the revenue for the Polish industries. I'm not agree to expend a lot of money buying weapons of other countries. If the Polish industry can develop a small Poland, but in cooperation with other countries in Trimarium, some systems of weapons, perhaps not all, can be that a revenue for the economy and the technology of Poland. Because it's true, if you, for example, the Egyptians in the last years buy the M1 Abrams, American battle tank. But the Abrams serving in the US armed forces is not the same that the Egyptians are. There are exporting versions. When Poland buy a Apache helicopter, is not buying the technology that the Americans use in its choppers, in its helicopters. And I think it's a logically, if I said, what do you prefer? Invest the money in the schools, in hospitals, it's logically that the priority must be hospital, no, it's ethic, but it's not the situation. A huge spend in defense for Poland is a sacrifice, but we must optimize the sacrifice. If Poland, instead to improve the hospitals, I don't know, built more 500 more tanks, the revenue for the Polish must be a revenue, our income for the Polish industry, not give our money to other people if we can do our weapons, like Israel, for example. And well, and there are a little bit a trap. When Donald Trump asked to invest at 2% of the GNP, is for buying weapons to the Americans. It's clear, the question. And I think is my point of view about this point.
Okay, then your recommendation is make some common
Military
project, yeah, in Trimarium.
And a common development of nuclear projects for getting geopolitical independence. Yes.
This is interesting proposal. Maybe somebody from audience, please.
Firstly, my regards to both the professors and the audience. I have one question. You heard about the Bond Steel military base in Kosovo, the South province of Serbia. It was established back in 1999. I was wondering, do you think that the presence of the military force in Kosovo region impacts the relations between the Serbians and Albanians and whole Balkan people states? Do you think the impacts the destabilization of the Balkans?
This hot potato, perhaps for Dave, no?
Yeah.
Dave.
That's all.
For sure. Yeah, as we talked about, I think before the panel, absolutely it impacts because, you know, Serbian people, they remember very well the 1999 bombing by NATO of Serbia, and this was bombing also in Belgrade that killed a number of civilians, So this is something that's very important in the memory of Serbian people and will probably keep Serbia out of the NATO for many years because of the debate in Serbia surrounding this and this memory. So absolutely the military base is a fresh reminder of that, So, you know, what to do about it? You know, that would be a question, to close that base or to somehow open it up for Serbian forces to play a larger role there, to kind of heal those wounds, from that experience, that negative experience with NATO. But by the way, I just as I have the microphone, just to transition just a little bit back to 3Cs initiative, you know, 3Cs, I mean, if we're talking about physical security and a security structure with 3Cs, in my opinion, you can forget it. Think about the European Union has what, almost 30 years of a common foreign security policy, and then a little bit less than that of a common security defense policy, and they hardly have a command structure. They have the beginnings of a command structure, but took all that time just to get to this point. So with 3Cs, I think we're not talking about physical security so much, other than maybe some cooperation, military cooperation among various members of 3Cs, But what we're really talking about is alternative security, such as cybersecurity, cooperation among the 3Cs members, and cybersecurity, energy security, as we talked about. One of the concerns there is that by 3Cs turning away from Russian oil and gas, energy security, there is a concern that some 3Cs countries will then make an alternative route around to China and will depend more on China. So that's a concern. So in other words, in terms of energy security, you don't want to replace one a bad situation with another. Yeah. So yeah, I see the 3Cs security idea as simply an idea which could bear fruit in the future. But I think if we're talking about a physical security structure, no, we're talking many years down the road. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. One more.
First of all, thank you for interesting debates, discussion. I have a question. When we are talking about NATO and NATO mission and historical role of NATO, I have to admit that NATO has played a huge role in preventing any conflicts during a Cold War era, because it was strong military cooperation alliance which prevented the Soviet Unions to expand further in Europe. However, in recent years, we have seen that it's my opinion, and this is what I want to know, if you agree with this. I see that there is a lack of willingness and readiness from the side of the Western powers, mostly, to actively answer the threats from the East. In the East, I mean China, Russia, Iran, and other powers, proxy powers too, of this big countries. So my question is there real readiness and willingness to fight for ourselves if there's a danger? Is there the willingness from from NATO? That's my question. Thank you.
Well, I think that I talk about this point. Now I am worried about the situation because that's true that the international relationship, if you are a nuclear power and you imagine that, I don't know, Joe Biden come here to visit Zamos and some police said, Biden is stupid. The answer of the United States was not destroy Zamos with an atomic bomb. Will be yes, a verbal note of the American ambassador. The crisis upgrading, you know. But for me, that is worrying. Is in the Treaty of Washington there are. This is the founder treaty of the NATO, the Treaty of Washington, 1949. There are the Article 4 and the Article 5 about the question. For me, my fear as father in a Polish family, what will be the answer of the allies in the case that Poland is attacked? Will be a comedy of conventional scenario waiting for upgrading the crisis, or will be an answer tomorrow all the NATO will answer? I don't trust in anybody. In an Italian film that I watched a lot of years ago, this is the story of a peasant in Sicily who had a work in northern Italy in Fiat for working, no? And his father, before go, said, sit on the chair, please. And he take the chair and wah! And the boy go down, no? First lesson, you go to the world, don't trust in anybody, even your father, you know. I think is the geopolitical problem that has Poland. Poland has an experience to live, to has a conflict alone and trust in the allies. The allies is very good, but when I listened that the Second World War started by the freedom of Poland, I said, this is a joke? What? Because the price for Poland for winning the war was a communist tyranny for 40 years. Thank you very much. You know.
You know, when we talk about NATO, I worked for NATO for some years. I was in the military for a number of years. And so we worked with NATO. And I remember at the time, that was in 1980s. And I remember we were always worried about classified material. So we always had to lock it up every evening. And there was this fear that if this material would fall into the hands of the Soviets, we would really be finished. And I never had that fear, because at that time, the NATO war plan was so confusing that even we couldn't understand it. how
But you control the business, the Americans. You don't understand.
how to bring all these different countries together in a unified war plan. Now, having said that, one of the greatest benefits to NATO unity and security since that time has been Mr. Putin. Mr. Putin has been the catalyst for the strongest NATO, the strongest European Union common security defense policy, and the 3 Cs initiative about security. This is all from Moscow, coming from Moscow. So it's ironic. It's ironic, but it's a fact. I mean, look, we've got 2 new NATO partners. We've got Finland and Sweden because of Mr. Putin. So exactly what he was fearing, if it's true, he was fearing some threat from NATO, which in my opinion was absurd before this. If Mr. Putin was fearing that, he got exactly the opposite of what he wanted through this action. Yeah. So catastrophe. Yeah. If you remember, in the 1990s, following the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Soviet Union, there was a big debate about NATO. What is NATO now? Should we dissolve NATO? Should we even have it? And so the idea was to transition NATO from an alliance against the Soviet Union, which it was, against the Warsaw Pact, to a collective security organization for Europe. And what you were mentioning there, that would be global in orientation. And we saw that with Afghanistan, with NATO Article 5 and NATO participants in Afghanistan, right? So that was the idea, that NATO transitioned from an alliance, a European alliance with US and Canadian partners, to a collective security organization a la the United Nations Security Council. Yeah. And I remember we had at that time in the 1990s, we had a talk by a NATO advocate, and his name was Mr. Jackson. I can't remember the full name, but Mr. Jackson came and talked to us about Slovakia coming into NATO. At that time, Slovakia was thinking about joining NATO. And one of the questions was, well, what about Austria? Do you think that Austria will be interested in it? And I remember Mr. Jackson's comment was, I think North Korea has a better chance of joining NATO than Austria. And if you know about Austria, Austria is a very conservative country and supporting NATO in the country, but it's dominated by Vienna, which is center left. And no NATO for Austria. Okay, but Austria certainly would benefit from that. They take part, of course, in the common security defense policy of the European Union, and they are in the 3 Cs initiative. So I see even Austria now jumping on board the security train, and again, all because of what happened in Moscow. Thank you.
Austrians said that Vienna is not Austria.
Can I something important that Professor Richard said? The invocation of the Article 4 of the Treaty of Washington in order to do the intervention in Afghanistan. There are no Polish interests in Afghanistan, but as solidarity of the Treaty of Washington, there are a multinational coalition, not for changing the government, was for fighting against Al-Qaeda. Well, the situation was more complicated. But can we do a lecture of this fact in Polish key? I remember some years ago, one president of one nation who fly to another nation in a plane of the Air Force, and this the propaganda is the propaganda, but this plane was shot down by the air defenses. Well, I think the people. What was the answer of the NATO in the case of the assassination of the maximal authority of a country? Because it's clear, no? Nowadays, the planes has systems of security that, I don't know, a baby 6 years old practically can land and operate. Why the most experienced pilots of this Air Force were not able to landing in Smolensk? The president of Poland was killed. What was the answer of the NATO to that? Article 0 of the Treaty of Washington. Yes. Can I talk?
Yes.
First of all, thank you for your answers. I just want to add some comment and my opinion about it. Yes, NATO is doing much, and of course, NATO is one of the reasons why Putin right now isn't going further. That's true. But Professor Pablo mentioned Afghanistan and Iraq. I want to add, I don't know if you know this fact, Georgia for many years used to be the #1 non-NATO country, which contributed a huge role for NATO missions around the world in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And in 2008, before the Russian invasion of Georgia, Western countries were boldly so brave, saying that Georgia one day will be a NATO member, and we will do everything to prevent any invasion from Russia, and we will do everything to make it easy for Georgia to be part of NATO. And these words really caused a kind of panic in Kremlin, and what they had to do was the war. There was a war, but before the war, when there was a meeting and gathering, official gathering of NATO, unfortunately, Germany and France were against Georgia's and Ukraine's membership in NATO. And this decision later resulted in invasion of Russia from Russia to Georgia. Russia invaded 20% of Georgia, which is still occupied. And unfortunately, the answer was nothing from the West. What I want to say right now is that currently, the Eastern European and Central European countries might not be as strong militarily as the Western countries. That's true. That's fact. We should admit this. But I think with a willingness and readiness, Eastern and Central European countries are more brave. And I want to tell you why I'm saying this. In 2008, when there was a war, when Russia was bombing Georgian cities, it was terrible days. I remember everything. I do not remember any Western leaders coming in Georgia. But I remember how Lech Kaczynski, how his wife was standing in Georgia, in Tbilisi. I remember how Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia was standing in Georgia, in Tbilisi. And they were risking their lives just for us. This is what is brave. This is what we call decent. This is what is pride. So I believe that the Eastern countries and the Central European countries have more bravery to be stronger and to answer accordingly. So I hope one day we will be able to have formed a strong coalition, even military one. Of course, I do not support the idea of dismantling NATO. No, NATO is also doing its role, but this is what I wanted to say. When it comes to readiness, willingness, and inner strength, I think the Eastern countries and the Central countries are more brave, and they always do what they say. Thank you.
Brave Trimarium. Okay, we must end our panel. Thank you for my panelists. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Pablo. And I invite you to the 10-minute coffee break. Coffee time, yeah.
So be so kind to take a seat. We start with the next panel. We initiated this Schuman Trimarium Forum yesterday, and basically we started from issues related to integration, political integration of the Trimarium region, and we identified that this politics or political community or geopolitics has a very big impact on the economy or culture and generally speaking development of many areas in the social life. So this was a very strong statement of the Professor Gross, and I think we agreed, and the Excellency Ambassador from the President of Poland confirmed that, showing the numbers and interests of these all countries in our region for bigger integration, cooperation, and creating a community in which we can develop different areas. Like, for instance, today, Professor Pablo de la Fuente mentioned about the importance of development, the common military industry. So this example shows us that we like, to develop this cooperation in many other areas. And in that panel, we are going to talk about how to strengthen the cooperation in the research, development of the technology, development of the different scientific thoughts, and the common cooperation with in application for as well European funds. So we get the presentation from Victoria from Budapest, from Hungary. She left today in the morning back to Budapest, and she presented that out of the all European funds sent for dedicated for research, we in that region we get nothing, almost nothing. So you've seen these numbers. We have this presentation, so there is available, so you can send this information to everybody. So the majority of that is delivered to Germany, France, and Netherlands, and so. Conclusion out of that was yesterday that we need to be more integrated, cooperative by application for these funds, and as well to find out what are the additional financial instruments we can develop and work on together in this region, so that to increase the potential of our scientific activities, not only theoretical activities, but especially these activities which can be applied in the real life, like, for instance, as well in the military industry and in the business. So most practical approach as it is possible. So today, I would like, to ask our experts, let's say, about this, how you view, how you anticipate, chance to, and how you would like, to basically mobilize, the universities in our region to get these outcomes. So in our panel, we have Professor Margaret Krittenburg from Hack University. You had opportunity, to see her. I just would like to mention that we have a huge number of viewers in internet, and this because this is an English version of this conference, so this will be distributed to many countries in that region. Next, we have a Professor Marcin Szewczak, who is a Vice Marshal of this region. And I would like to mention that him, the office of the Marshal in Lublin, had initiated the coalition of around, I think, 13 universities around the Trimarium region. And there is a potential. They signed up kind of a general agreement. And this is a very good starting point to foster, to develop, based on that, what you did, these actions, these activities, we are going to talk now. And as well, it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Skrzydlewski, who is a rector of that university. And thank you very much indeed that you get chances to be here to use this, a spot, it make more possible to organize that event. So let's start probably from the Marshal. We would appreciate, your response to that issue I am raising.
Thank you very much, Professor. Hello, everybody. I'm here in the two roles, as the professor said. One, since almost 4 years, like a vice marshal of this region. And the second, as a professor of the Catholic University of Lublin. I'm working on the Faculty of Law. And my fields of interest, it's regional development, special insight of the European Union and this region, Central East Europe. At the beginning, I would like to say you my few words from the history. Almost exactly 20 years ago, after my studies on the Catholic University of Lublin, I was starting something like the master studies in Budapest. I was there by 1 year. It was joining by the Peter Pazman Catholic University and Sandhurst University in Milan. And we had in the same, like we are sitting today, international group, around 20-25 students from the every country from the European Union. Also this country, which are joining on the 1st May of 2004. That's why from the Poland I was just one. And then we have the professors from the other countries. And I meet then the professor from the Institute of Diplomacy in Vienna. And we are speaking about the profession of on the future work for the public administration in these countries of the European Union. And he said some words, and I remember this word almost every day, that the working for the public administration, working for the country, it's not a usual job. It's kind of profession. If you don't feel this, that this is profession, you are not be good worker. And from my opinion, by these 20 years, the Poland and the whole area of the Central Europe change in the big position. But we have to remember that we are not in the good geographical position, because we have the east, what happened on the east side, and we have the west. Now, from the few years, we have the European Union changing the political point of view, special for the Poland and other countries, and it's not good for the future. And that's why we are trying to organize some people, some organization, university also in the Trimarium area. As the professor said, we organized four times in Lublin, the Congress, local self-government Congress of the Trimarium, and we established the network One is the network for the regions. We have almost 25 regions from the countries like Poland, Lithuania, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, and also plus the regions from the Ukraine, especially in the West Ukraine. And 2 years ago, we established during the Congress the university network of the Trimarium. The Catholic University of Lublin is the leader of this network. And on the Congress who was in this year, we joined another universities, and we have two plans, two roads for the development of this network. One is to create something like study research about Trimarium area. That's why it's a very good place for such discussions like we are today. And we want to collect many professors who are interested in this area, because we want to create maybe not studies about Trimarium, but you know that we are teaching the students, for example, about the public administration. We want to show them that we have the common history, common culture, and we have to support. It's a great idea, like Schuman, Institute of Schuman, because you have the opportunity to meet. And I remember, from my point of view, by these 20 years, I have the friends from this my studies in Budapest. They are working in the public administration. They are also professor, and it's something nice to speak with them. And then we have create some kind of project. So for the future of Central Europe, we have to organize together, because I think you know that from the German point of view, the Central Europe is area just for the workers. And from the East point of view, it's area just for the travel by the Poland, by the Czech Republic, Hungary to the West. And we have to organize themselves to create the new space for Europe, because we have the problem in the European Union. We have the problem with the illegal migration. We have the problem with the climate changes. You know, everybody what's happening now in the south and west south of the Poland. So everything is changing, and the future of the Central Europe will depend on this kind of projects to create the new space. And I think that the university network of the Trimarium, it will be good position to start discussion about the future of the Central Europe, and also create new people. We need new people who are thinking about the future of the Europe, that the Central Europe is the crucial point to develop the whole Europe.
Thank you. So, Margaret, Professor Margaret Krittenburg, could you share with us, what kind of ideas you could have about the financial instruments of funding, the research based on your experience in Netherlands, and some kind of, suggestions, so that, as I said, the integration, the coalition within the universities in that Trimarium region can start to be more effective and more to obtain a higher potential.
Thank you very much for your question also. Again, I'm happy to be here, and I'm also a teacher of Spanish, de modo que, bueno, muy bienvenido. Entonces, yo encantada a escucharle también y la presentación. Muchas gracias, señor La Fuente. So, to tell you the truth about funding, I'm I'm the worst person to ask about funding. I'm really very sorry to say so, but I do have a kind of solution to this kind of problem. Yesterday, I already mentioned it, but I mention it again because I think it's so hugely important that Schuman started the first peaceful revolution ever in Europe. And that he was able to start with two arch enemies, France and Germany. I just repeat it because I think it's so important to know this. For more than 1,000 years, there were really arch enemies. He started a peace project, putting the instruments of war, coal and steel, so natural resources, as he used them as instruments of peace, putting them at a supranational level so that they were no longer French or German. I think this is a way of thinking that is really unique and that we all need in order to try to solve problems and to not have this weapon industry that we are having now, and that is needed, unfortunately, because we have to defend to be able to use as a deterrent. But I think it is really that we are having a problem of sickness here. Anyhow, having said all that, now on a positive note, what I want to say is that what I do at my university, at the Hague University of Applied Sciences, there are students from all over the world. So not only from Western Europe, also from Eastern and Central Europe, and also from Asia, Australia, United States, and Africa. And we have the COIL project, that is the Collaborative Online International Learning Project. And it is an online project, so it doesn't cost anything. So I think that is a kind of funding in that sense. So what we do is, it is about personal leadership connected to core principles European integration. And those core principles are Schuman's principles. So, and an extra thing that I just want to say about that, we have never had such a long period of peace among the EU member states as since the Schuman Declaration of 1950. That implies also that we have peace, that there was not a third world war. What was then also in the 1950s, it was really a very dangerous period. And you all know this because you had the Russian occupation and so on and so forth, communism. So I think also, and another thing is so that there has not been this war, what is very positive. And also, I think as Eastern and Central European countries, it is good to know that 20 years ago, before becoming a member of the European Union, the situation of the country was really not as good as it is now, economically speaking. So economically, I think the Eastern and Central European countries really improved quite a bit. Okay. Having said that, I know there are problems, and especially in the vision, the ideology vision. We can speak about that another time. But okay, so what I do with the personal leadership part is I focus on the virtues. I ask the students, first of all, when you come, why are you sitting here? I have a class. I just give a kind of an idea of how a class goes, so that you get an idea of how this works. 29 students from all over the world. I asked them, okay, why are you taking this elective? Because it is an elective. They want to know, yesterday we spoke also a little bit about it. They want to know how to command another person. I said, okay, this is then the wrong course, because it's about personal leadership. You cannot lead another person if you cannot lead yourself. That's one. Then, next question, what is the main aim in life? And silence. Main aim in life, good Lord me, who knows the main aim in life? Okay, first they say healthy, to be healthy. Okay, also when you're sick, you can be really happy. So, okay, so in the end it is happiness, to be happy. Yeah, Bin Laden also wanted to be happy. What did he do? He killed half of mankind. What is happiness? So then the question is, what is happiness? Then, okay, so they don't know. And then I say, I know. And that sounds extremely arrogant, I know. I have to laugh also, but I say it is the truth. It counts for you and it counts for me. Okay, again, silence. words. What will this be? She knows. Wow. So I said, to try to become the person you're meant to be. I think in this ambience, I can say by God, but that I don't say. Yeah? To try to become the person you're meant to be. I know already what the next question will be. You probably too. But then how do I know who I am meant to be? All those 29 students, each one has to say a quality. I said, okay, what kind of qualities would you like to see in another person? Well, that he is honest, nice, trustworthy. Everybody has to say another quality. So it becomes ever more difficult, of course. When you're number 29, it's really difficult. What kind of quality can I think of? Okay, I write them all on the board. And then I say, okay, sorry, but I miss one quality. She misses one quality. What's that? Humility. Oh, humility. People don't like it. Usually people don't like to hear this word humility, But then it's because it's a lack of understanding what is humility. Humility, and then it's usually a person from the Eastern countries, so from the Trimarium, who knows the answer. Because humility is the truth. You don't pretend to be someone that you're not. And when you're one talent, you're happy with your one talent because you live in harmony with whom you are. You don't try to do as if you have 2 or 3 or whatever. When you have 10 talents, you use your 10 talents and not 6 or 7 because you become passive, you become lump. Then, in order to make the link with the core principles of European integration, let's look at Schuman. Schuman, he is declared venerable in 2021. So that means that he lived the virtues to a heroic degree. So, and what did Schuman want for the European integration project? What he wanted was the person at the heart of all structures, economic structures, political structures, juridical structures, all structures, but always in connection with the common good. And this last part that is many times lacking. I know, because we live in a very individualistic society, in the West at least. Yeah. So, and that is one of the causes. I think individualism, hedonism, and relativism are the 3 biggest problems that we have, and that should be worked against, or we should uproot it somehow, because it doesn't bring happiness. Anyhow, so this is the link that and then I had the students, okay, so we know the way Schuman solved the issues after the Second World War, more or less, is with an attitude of reconciliation. When there is this appreciative dialogue, when you really try to look for the good in the other person in another country, you find common interests. And when you find common interests, you build on those common interests. And if you don't find it, okay, you respect each other in each other's difference, and you can enrich each other. And this is a way of thinking. So this is reconciliation. Then solidarity. The solidarity in the 50s was coal and steel, working together in the field of coal and steel at the supranational level. Okay, so that was the solidarity. Okay, and then subsidiarity, very important. I know it's also, especially here, I hear it a lot. Subsidiarity, don't give in more than needed. And this is also how Schuman himself safeguarded several of the real interests of Alsace-Lorraine, of his region. He did not, because he had to adapt all the laws when he was a parliamentarian in the French government. He had to adapt the laws of Alsace-Lorraine after the First World War to the laws of Paris. That was the laïcité. Where was the laïcité? So there were different laws. Okay, it's another story. I can tell about that later on if you want. So he adapted everything except for some that were typical of that region. And that were, for example, also social laws introduced by Bismarck, and also, well, religion also at publics or at schools. So that was also there, and it was not done in the rest of France. And it's still a different kind of region, this region. Okay, having said all that, And then supranationality only where needed. So this is what I just said. When you have a big family, I explain it also to them, like, okay, when you have a big family, every child is different. The child will blossom most when it can become the person he or she is meant to be. And to help is when you need to help. If you don't need to help, then it's good that the child himself or herself is challenged, to do whatever he or she can do. And so it depends. The solidarity also in that sense depends on how much solidarity you give to what. And the supranationality then also. So, okay, with this in mind, the students, so from all those countries, and we have about 200 in the auditorium, they present topics like migration, EU-Russia, climate. I will add now also the Trimarium, perhaps in the West, because I think that we really need to complement each other better, that we have to work together more. And then they have to look through Schuman's eyes and work towards a solution. How can we foster, how can we solve those problems? Okay, and I can just tell you that, also our board of directors, they are extremely happy. They call it one of the highlights when we have the annual International Schuman Student Congress. Next year, we will have the 12th annual International Schuman Student Congress, because I did it from the moment I defended my PhD. I thought this is so hugely important. If people start looking through this paradigm, because we need a paradigm shift. We need a paradigm shift. We are now so much focused on for superficial. And this is what we also spoke earlier about. What is the vision? What is man? Who is man? That is so important. Man connected to the common good. But okay, so I think I just stop here now for the moment. But you can do it online, so that is for free. Yeah, so that's the good thing.
Yeah, so you explained us the secret, how the Schuman was acting and how we, getting acquainted with him. We can obtain the model of his activity, how he was efficient. This is a secret about, how to be successful in creating a community integration and being successful in the project. So I think it's a very important grant and the base, to the issue we are talking about. So Professor Skrzydlewski, would you be so kind to refer to that issue research, how we can, based on that created community in the Trimarium universities, develop research, any solutions, funding, financial instruments, or probably organizational actions.
Thank you very much for question and invitation for this meeting. Professor Krysiak says that I'm specialist, but it's not true. I'm philosopher only, and I would like to stress philosophical elements which we lost today in the contemporary world, not only in Trimarium region. Which elements? First element, this is a science. When we think about the science, today we see technology, we see some experiments and everything what brings to us utilitarian profits. This is a good, the science is able to bring us cellular phones, satellites, new medicine. This is very important, but we don't have we have to remember about what is a science exactly. The science is a journey to the truth. The science, real science, needs the wisdom. Real science needs communion of person, and this communion of person is called university. Today, we see destruction of science, we see destruction of university, and we see also destruction of education. Why? Because a lot of Europeans thinks the university, this is only government programs, buildings, but the true spirit of university, this is a communion of person who wants to know the truth, wants to possess the wisdom. This is very important to be and live in the university. For me, university, this is the most important and most wonderful place on the earth. Why? Because this is a place of development of human person. Not only feelings, not only mind, but also our bodies, everything what a man really needs. Today, we see some kinds of reduction of university to the utilitarian aims. So this is a dangerous for our culture, because without university, we don't have a major person. We don't have a good politicians. We don't have a nation also. This is a source, university for me is a source of national culture. So how important is university for Poland? For example, we know the history. First university in the Poland, this is a Krakow Academy. Yeah, he played a very important role in the Poland independence, because was a big threat from Teutonic order, and he wants to destroy independence. Not only Polish independence, but many different tribes want to be possessed by this country and this community. So what I'm going to tell you, if we want to create today Trimarium region strength and true, we have to develop university science and true education. Education is a journey to the truth. So this is very important today, because we see that many politicians want to see in the university only instrument for political aims, for ideology. So I would like only stress 3 things. Thank you very much for your attention.
And professors who want to go as an Erasmus student or Erasmus teacher to the Trimarium universities. So it's the first thing, and the second, from my point of view, for the developing of this region and developing the university network of the Trimarium, the good position could be opportunity to take the money from the Trimarium fund and create the same solution like Erasmus, but exactly for the students from the Trimarium region, and give them the money from the Trimarium funds.
Yeah, thank you. This is interesting direction. So we are planning with Professor Reichert and other professors to organize in Bratislava a meeting probably December or January next year, and we would like you to discuss, the establishment of the Schuman scientific clubs within these universities and the network you have now, and as well discuss to promote and extend this program you mentioned, and as well to discuss more other topics, including as well some certain programs to be taught on these universities. So you are now asked to to join that because your actions you did already is very essential, and just please extend this our need to to Marshal, the General Marshal, so that we just perform the supportive actions, not just removing or replacing what you did, but you know, to get the extent of what you initiated, because you know this is a way how we can leverage getting a synergy on that what you initiated before. So, Professor Margaret, you want to say something, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that don't exclude the West. Because really what I noticed with the programs that, for example, this program I just spoke about, where there are 29 students from all over the world, it is so beautiful to see that in the end, everybody wants to be happy. Everybody deep down wants the same thing. And it encourages this cultural enrichment, because there are also people from India. I also have a university from India involved and a university from Spain, Francisco de Vitoria de Madrid. Very good university. And those students, together with our Erasmus students that are from all over, they discuss in groups of 10 in WhatsApp groups, what is personal leadership according to you? You know, those basic things, virtues. And they all grow in intercultural understanding, in empathy, in trying to understand the other person. They learn so much from each other. So if not, what happens? I'm so happy also for the Dutch people that they are surrounded by other kind of people, because it is so enriching. The Dutch, they are so direct. Oh, the Indians, they are so docile. Oh, the Spanish are so going, you know, your friends immediately and so on. You learn so much, and you see your own shortcomings, and you see the other positive points of other cultures. So I think it is really, and also you ask for funds from the EU. You know, this morning we spoke about the Horizon project. Also that if Trimarium comes together with one project, great, put it on the Horizons funds, you will get funded. You know, but work together, build those bridges. Yeah, in the very beginning yesterday, we also spoke about the two lungs. Schuman also really, he focused on there is a West Europe and there is an Eastern Europe, and they belong together. You know, they're one Europe.
We are not excluding the West, but I have to tell you, the one situation 4 years ago, when we are trying to create the network of the 3C regions, we were trying to invite the regions from every country from the 3C initiative. And as you know, we have the Austria, and the regions from the Austria, they said that, okay, but it's something like in the opposite to the European Union, and we don't want to join with you because you are doing something else to the opposite to the European Union. And the same situation was with the university network, because we have the partners bilateral agreements with the university in Austria and German, and we send the invitation to the Austrian universities, and one of the professor write me also the same, that it's good idea, but we think that it's not good for the whole the European Union. You should create together with all the European Union, not separately as the Central East. So I'm not sure if there is a.
Okay, so that I don't know, because if you would ask me, I would say, yeah, you're welcome. So it might depend also on the people, but many times it depends on the people. We even spoke about it. If you don't get into this door, then try that door. You know, if this window closed, try the next window. I mean, sometimes it is like that, but also if not, just an individual, for example, your university in this coil, what I'm teaching. So this could be, then it's not Trimarium, it's just one university. So this way you can also cooperate. I mean.
Yeah, so concrete, you were invited to Bratislava. This is a concrete response. You invite other representative from Netherlands to Bratislava. You invite, from Spain. So you have chance, to prove, to create a balance. Because as you remember these numbers from yesterday, the entire funds or majority of funds are flowing to the Germany, France, and Netherlands. So what is the reason? The reason is not that this region is excluding somebody from Western. The reason is that there is not a balance. And through these actions, as the Marshal said, they were invited other universities to basically share how we can obtain this balance. And this is a very important for creating the higher quality of the community in entire Europe. So the community on the eastern side is underdeveloped. And we know that about, I mean, regarding, you know, the infrastructure, energy sector, and so on. The reason why Freeze's initiative arose is that underdevelopment. And therefore, on the western side is to join this action. So creating trying to foster, to strengthen the community in this region is not to exclude somebody from Western. This is a challenge to Western to join, to strengthen this Eastern leg, okay? So therefore, you with happiness receive the invitation, invite other colleagues, so we will see how they will react. So you will get, I mean, a confirmation, or it will be a real information about how they approach. So we believe with Schuman, we can attract them, because what we do, Trimarium, Schuman Trimarium Forum, is just sending the message to the Western. Schuman is your land friend. It's your. When I was, you know, in Italy a few years ago, 300 people from France, Netherlands, Spain, and Italy, Germany. And I get a speech about Schuman. Afterwards, they approach and say, "Professor, I never knew about that. The Schuman was so splendid guy." This response were arriving from Italians, Germans, and French. So our project is just to create this balance, which is not existing today.
I agree with you absolutely. Schuman was a person who bring to us true Western rules to the politics, and this rule says that morality is first, common good. This is a real aim of all political actions. So I would like to stress only one thing in my presentation: to recognize the identity of the West and the identity of politics and social life. We need university. We need a quiet place where people talk and people looking for the truth. And I'm very glad that this meeting is in Zamość Academy, the second university in the Poland. So I see the chance for our development. I would like to meet you many times. So I'm very happy to see you.
So, Professor, thank you very much for developing that. What is the basic at the science and the universities? And we touched the certain point, Schuman Academy. As we talked yesterday, Margaret, you received and you became very happy on your face, saying, yes, Schuman Academy is a universal proposal for entire Europe. The left and right leg, or just Western and East leg, right? So the Schuman Academy. So this is what we would, in this form, in this way, we would like to attract everybody. So the audience wanted to have some
Thank you very much. I have one question, but I think to all prelegents. How do you perceive the current diminishing of role of humanistic science in teaching agenda? How do you think, what would be the consequences of removing it? Because we are witnessing this process and, well, I'm a little bit worried about that. Thank you.
In my opinion, when we lose humanistic science, also philosophy, we destroy university and we destroy the heart and mind of Western citizens. So we need really philosophy, and philosophy play a very important role in the university. I don't have a philosophical faculty in my university, but I try to prepare program for this faculty because this is necessary. This is necessary. This is a beginning of true human education. Without anthropology, without ethics, without philosophy of law, we don't understand nothing. We don't understand. So it's necessary to come back to true philosophy. For me, this classical philosophy, true philosophy, belongs to the Thomas Aquinas tradition and Aristotle and Plato. So not German thinkers like Hegel, Schopenhauer, and Heidegger or Derrida or different person, because this activity I said about German philosophers generally destroyed human rationality, human reason. So it's not my opinion. If we know, for example, doctrine of John Paul II, if we know the encyclic Fides et Ratio and many different works of John the Person, we can find the same sentence and opinion.
So your response?
I think that it's a real problem now about the humanities, because as you know, we have in Poland and in other countries of the Europe the big chance for the other kind of studies, the special medicine, and this is a big problem in Poland exactly, because we have still too less the students of the medicine, and the humanities it's a heart of the science, and without this kind of studies, we have no opportunity to create the good people who will be working later for the state. You know, we have create a good doctors, a good engineers, but we need the people who will understand what is the heart of the state, what is the crucial point for every state. For example, for the Poland, we need the future, the young people who understand that we must remember about our past and must remember about our future. We are not just workers from the last minute. We need to be for the state, and this is the crucial point. And I think the humanities must back for the position from the previous years. Of course, it will be very difficult because we have demographical problems. Also here in this part of the Lubelski region, in the next 20-25 years, probably it will be less around 20% of the people living here in this region. So it's a big problem also for the universities and also for the state.
Thank you. I think I can only agree with what is said. I think it's a hugely important. The history, the future depends a lot also on the history. You can learn from the history. Look what Schuman did. But I think instead of adding similar things to what you said, you know, there is a saying that Schuman says, he says, if you make of this project, European integration project, a technical, economical project without a soul, then sooner or later it can fall apart. Having said this, I also want to mention one thing, and that is, I think, very hopeful, because there's always something like conscience. So I don't think it will get that far. I hope at least. And because there is the conscience, like what Sophocles already had, even, you know, people that do not believe, like the Western world, many people do not believe and think like that. Sophocles already said that there are those inalienable rights, the rights inside us that count always everywhere. Okay, and we know that Plato and Aristotle said the same, had continued with this. And then we had Cicero also saying this in the Republica. So, and I believe, and also when I saw those 29 students saying all kinds of everything, I asked them, who is against one of those qualities? None. This is so nice. This is natural law. This is what you call natural law, because everybody deep down wants the same. You want to be a good person, and you want the other person to be a good person, because you are the other person for the other person, you know? So I think deep down, this conscience, if we have a well-formed conscience, that is the thing, well-formed. But it gets well-formed if we train ourselves in virtues. I'm convinced about that. Then also our mind becomes more clear. We see better what is important, and so on and so forth. So I think that is a practical thing I can add to it, perhaps.
Just two short comments from the audience, and we will finish. Just comments, not the questions, so that not to extend that discussion.
Okay, thank you. And for short comment, dear colleagues, actually, I think we must not pretend that our universities, especially Western universities, are the same universities as they were for a long time. What I mean? I mean that simple statistics, that more than 90% of academia professors are counted, or they treat themselves as they are liberals, leftist liberals. This statistics is pure statistics. You may treat it as you wish, but the reality is that universities are closing minds. And Alan Bloom, for example, American political philosopher, he has written the book in late 80s, 1980s, The Closing of American Mind. A few authors recently, a few years ago, followed this path and wrote the book Coding American Mind. So they reflect very unpleasant situation in Western universities. And I think what you have said about the reluctance to cooperate with Lublin Catholic University is on the same path. The sickness, the illness of this closing American mind, or closing the university mind, the essence of this sickness is ideology-based dominance. Left-wing ideology, in American context, it is called liberal ideology, but doesn't matter the words. They are closing debate. They are closing the essence of university. The essence of university, as our rector perfectly expressed it, it was based on universitas, Latin. It is general knowledge based on the cultivation of a man, not just cultivation of profession, which will adjust itself to the market needs. Human being is not the element of the market. Human being is much more. It's a subject of the virtues. University must follow the cultivation of the virtues, not the cultivation how to successfully get bigger salary on the market. So leftist ideology, and I am speaking not from my point of view, but from the statistical point of view, liberal leftist ideology closing the debate culture within the universities. We are not getting the possibility to debate freely all the issues. What does it mean? It means the end of the science. Science must have the possibility to debate all the aspects, including unpleasant to your ideology. So referring to these American offers, referring to the reality, if you follow the political reality in American context, I mean, George Floyd riots and what followed in the universities, safety spaces within the universities, in American context. What the Ukrainians from the front line could tell about safety spaces. Safety for us is the attack on our physical integrity, right? It is a real danger. What is the real danger in the universities, right? So all of these patterns show that university is in crisis, in deep crisis. Education is in crisis also. So what for me means Schuman ideas, it is the invitation to get back to the classical education, to the cultivation of virtues and of general knowledge, not just to be adjustment to the market, to be open to even hostile ideas you possess. Okay, this is the essence. To meet at the university sphere as much as possible different outlooks, different positions, different attitudes. Not closing the minds, not closing them, but opening. So Schuman's ideas, I believe, invite to open university, to open mind, not to close. Okay.
Thank you very much. I don't want to speak really a lot, to be short, but you started and I will continue. Let's say, don't be a political correct. Maybe it will be offensive, but don't take it in such way. A lot of topics we can discuss. Maybe to what I wanted to express. You mentioned Bratislava, professor. I mean, professor, don't take it like an offense, yeah? But when I hear University of Comenius, we can speak about the quality, about money, how they make their research. But what I'm looking on the Trimarium and the border, it's the eastern border. And why Bratislava? Why not Prešov, which in June signed this memorandum in Lublin, I think. Associate Professor Cardis. I read it. So what's the idea? What I wanted to propose is that, okay, just go to the project strategically, because we are facing, let's say, what you said is idealistic version, but we have also idealistic and realistic. Realistic is that probably borders will change. Maybe some don't want to hear it, but we need to be prepared for facing of that. And we are, for example, the only one university, or let's say the VIJAL, the institute, which is focusing on cross-border cooperation. Doesn't matter if Polish, but now we are concentrating to the CBC with Ukraine. What was changed, how it helped, etc., making research. Connecting to Ukrainians. The problem is really a lot of time for speaking, but universities are facing the problem with financial supporting from the government based on how many students we have. For example, in Slovakia. What's happening? Demographically, we haven't the mass of people, and we are, let's say, hiring very openly in Ukraine. Doesn't matter. Just going to street and hiring. And what's happening? I'm not attacking anybody, just don't take it in such way. But what else with them? They will have the university teaching everything, not like in USA, everything is free. They are, let's say, we are giving money for additionally for them, but they are not staying, for example, there. There was mentioned there that I'm studying, and I make some revenue, or how to say it, just to bring it back to state or the society. And what we will do with them if they are starting on bachelor, for example, and they are moving then to Bratislava, And in the second level of university studies, which are more, let's say, supported with money, we haven't nobody. From, for example, 15 students, we have only 3. And everybody is going to Bratislava just because employment, more opportunities, etc., etc. And it's attacking now. This project was built. Why? Because not only facing the problem of disparities between West and East, but also North but we are now facing the same. You said, for example, Bratislava, but it's still not, let's say, it's not reducing the disbalance between West and East. So why Ukrainians? I wanted to say that if we will, for example, concentrate on migration, just make some project based on migration, because we are facing it, and have to, for example, to keep them here. Yeah, because migration was there before the war, after the war, it's still. But how it's changing our society, our mind, and extremism, for example, etc., etc., etc. But be very, let's say, sophistically concentrated on maybe some topic which is common, and have to face it and have to solve the problems which are going. Yeah, a lot of things I wanted to express, but just I'm, not starting to be nervous about the Comenius University or whatever. Just wanted to express that teachers are under the pressure. Now, what is happening on university is not only about the let's say closing of discussion, but also the position of teacher, university teacher. What is the basis is changing for project manager, idea creator, I don't know what, and we are reducing the time. We should concentrate on one part mainly. Yeah, of course, research, but we are under the pressure. Maybe you not. But I see that many people or university teachers is still talking about the same symptoms, problems, and nobody is taking care about that. Yeah, and government, yeah, of course, humanities reducing, natural more. Yeah, because of automotive, whatever. And then we are, let's say, looking that, oh, there is some extremism, there is some shooting. Yeah, mainly on the prime minister. Why? Because people are starting to be under the stress. Let's say so.
Okay, let's conclude. You may invite and organize such a meeting in Prešov in February or March. Okay, so there was examples of Bratislava meeting. Is not just that we would like to focus everybody on Bratislava. So if you said something like that, confirm that by the actions. Okay. And organize in March or April a meeting in Prešov, and myself in person, I will arrive there. Okay. So between a gentleman, if he's saying something, is able to do that. Okay. So thank you very much. I thank you very much, Professor Margaret Krittenburg, Professor Szewczak, Marshall, and Professor Szkulewski, rector. Thank you very much.